Pure physical strength. That's exactly what this video is about. The Assassin's Creed franchise has a lot of protagonists. Each one has their own unique style and attributes. But when it comes to raw physical power, there really are only a few that stand out. Here's the question of the day. If you were in a zombie apocalypse, which Assassin's Creed protagonist would you want by your side? Think carefully about that one. Anyway, what I want to do in this video is go over who I personally think the strongest Assassin's Creed character is in terms of physical strength. And the way I'm going to do this is by going from weakest to strongest. Do note that this video will focus on all of the protagonists, so I'm not going to exclude any characters, as that's just pointless and unfair to certain characters. Now please remember that this is entirely my opinion. I may see things differently from you, but that's the beauty in an opinion-based video. I think the top 3 might stir up the most debate, since after checking out other people's lists on YouTube or Reddit, I noticed my top 3 is pretty different. Anyway, if you do enjoy this video, do consider hitting that subscribe button. And with all of that said, let's get right into ranking who the strongest Assassin's Creed character is from weakest to strongest. So coming in at last place, in my opinion, is Aveline from Assassin's Creed Liberation. Now don't get me wrong, Aveline is an incredibly skilled assassin, but when it comes to raw physical power, she just doesn't measure up to the others in the video. I mean, you're not going to see Aveline beat any of these characters in a pure physical strength fight, and that's totally okay. It's just the way it is. She may put up a decent fight, as the official Assassin's Creed wiki does say she could match any male opponent in battle. However, Aveline's strengths lie more in her agility and versatility. She's absolutely fantastic at blending into different environments and using different outfits to outsmart her enemies, as evident with the whole persona system in Assassin's Creed Liberation. We do know that Aveline cleared out the Templar presence in New Orleans, dealing with many types of soldiers and even alligators. While she rarely faced a serious challenge, we didn't really get to see her full potential in action, but that's most likely due to Liberation being such a short spin-off game. Her background as an assassin in New Orleans during the 18th century required her to be adaptable and resourceful. She's got this kind of finesse and elegance in her combat style, which makes her a pretty tough opponent, but it's not necessarily about brute force with her. You know, think of it like this. Characters like Connor or Eivor are known for their sheer physical power. Connor's got that Native American brute toughness, and Eivor, being a Viking, has immense strength. When you compare them to Aveline, it's clear that her strengths are in a different area. Does this mean she's weak at all? Absolutely not. She'll be all of her asses. But to me, it's only right to put Aveline at last place. Now for the second last place in this video, we have Eivor from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's instead FRYE from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now don't let this placement fool you. EVIE is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to stealth and agility, and if this was a ranking based on who the stealthiest character is, then she'd be a top 3 for sure. In fact, she even said, and I quote, "A true master of stealth can blend into any environment. If I remain still, my enemies will have no idea I'm about to strike." And that's a true statement, as she does quite literally turn invisible. In terms of physical strength, she's in a similar situation to Aveline, in how she would not be able to beat any of the following characters in a pure physical fight. Evie's approach is more subtle compared to her brother Jacob's brute force. While Jacob relies on brass knuckles and firearms, Evie prefers tools like the cane sword and throwing knives, hitting targets from a distance with deadly accuracy. Also, spoiler warning for the Jack the Ripper DLC ahead, you have been warned. We also know that Evie single-handedly defeated Jack the Ripper, but what we do need to realize is that she first attempted to fight him in a physical battle, and she did struggle, so she was forced to use stealth to her advantage and take him down. To be fair, she did also beat the living shit out of everyone in the Fight Club in Syndicate, but realistically, I think anybody in this video could also do that, as the opponents were not exactly the strongest of fighters. It's just underground Fight Club stuff. So while Evie may not be the strongest physically, her blend of skills and stealth make her one of the most unique and capable assassins in the series. Okay, now next up we have ARNO Dorian from Assassin's Creed Unity. Now this placement in the video is a strange one on paper, because looking at it, it doesn't seem right to place ARNO this low in terms of physical strength, but it does make sense considering the other names in the video. It's just a sucky situation for ARNO to be here. Now when you think of ARNO's main attributes, to me the first thing that pops up into my head is how agile he is in terms of parkour, as well as his stealth capabilities, and how levels ahead they are compared to the characters who are the strongest. In fact, here's a fun fact about ARNO. During his earlier years, he used to spend a few days sword fighting Elise. Yes, Elise. And ARNO would in fact lose those fights quite easily. I just thought that was interesting to include. He also only really took things seriously in terms of training shortly after becoming an official assassin. He's never been a character who's exceptional at melee combat. Don't get me wrong, Arno is a highly skilled assassin, but his strength lies more in his elegance and technique rather than raw physical power. Arno's combat style is a blend of swordplay and acrobatics. Of course, right now he's a capable swordsman, able to take on multiple opponents with precision strikes and parries, and because his character is so agile, it allows him to dodge attacks very smoothly and strike back with lethal accuracy. This makes him incredibly effective in a fight, but when it comes to sheer physical strength, he's not quite on the same level of some of his more brawny counterparts. In fact, just picture Arno versus Connor in your head. To me, that can only go one way. Oh, and we do know that Arno is a very skilled thief, on top of being very agile, but apart from those two traits, physical strength is not exactly his #1 attribute. Now moving on, we have Basim from Assassin's Creed Mirage, and before you say, yes I know he's a reincarnation of Loki, but just because he's a reincarnation of Loki, that does not now mean he possesses the powers Loki had during his EZIO days. I feel like that's a misconception people don't realize. The Assassin's Creed lore is pretty vague in terms of Basim and Loki. There is no mention or showing of Basim's physical strength being increased because of him being a reincarnation, but let's say it has increased. Wouldn't that also mean Sigurd's physical strength should also be increased because he's the reincarnation of the literal Norse god of war, or EIVOR, or Savala, and so on? We can't just pick and choose. You know, all we can go off is what we see with our eyes, and Basim in Assassin's Creed Mirage is not exactly the strongest physically. In fact, before Basim became an assassin, he had no combat experience at all, and he could not win a fight to save his life. To me, Basim is in a similar boat to Arno, in that both were thieves at a young age, but Basim was not just a thief because it was fun for him. It was because he had to make a living, and becoming a thief was the only thing he knew, and because he was so good at being a thief, this also meant his free running was exceptional, and he could pretty much parkour away to escape with ease. But none of that equates to physical strength. It's more so agility and stealth. Also, since Basim trained in Alamut to become a better fighter, he was able to take on enemies one by one. But as we know, when he's presented with more than one enemy, that's when Basim struggles the most. And no, the teleport ability is not a literal teleport ability. It's more so the fact that the Animus is catching up with how fast Basim was. Because remember, we're playing as an unnamed character reliving Basim's memories. So yeah, Basim is more of a strategic fighter as shown by the amount of gadgets he has in his arsenal. Physical strength wise, he's not the strongest. So it's a toss up between Arno and Basim to be placed here in this position, but I decided on Basim purely because of his low-key connection, even though that doesn't affect physical strength whatsoever. I just thought it was cool to add. ALTAIR ibn LA'AHAD. When you think of Assassin's Creed, to me this is the character that embodies the franchise's name. He's the most grounded assassin, the most devoted assassin, but is he physically the strongest assassin? Hell no. I recently put out a poll asking who the strongest was between these four characters, and I am slightly disappointed that a lot of you watching this video voted ALTAIR to be physically stronger than Jacob FRYE. I'll get to Jacob's part later in the video, but for now let's focus on ALTAIR. Now, unlike some of the other assassins who rely heavily on gadgets or brute strength, ALTAIR is a bit more of a traditionalist. His strength lies in his agility and precision instead of raw power. In the early days of the assassins, characters like ALTAIR were all about being super swift and agile, you know, as a true assassin would be, assassinating their target and getting out with ease. So strength was not really ALTAIR's main attribute. But to be fair, as the series went on, characters like BAYEK, Connor and EIVOR were showcased to be more brute focused. We do know that ALTAIR from a very young age very quickly became the youngest master assassin in the Levantine Brotherhood and was pretty much capable of taking down anyone who stood in his path, whether it's the Templars, guards, you name it. He also managed to successfully take back the Brotherhood from corruption not just once but twice. So in summary, ALTAIR is definitely a legend of an assassin, probably the most legendary, and he definitely does have decent physical strength. But when you compare it to the characters after him in this video, this placement of ALTAIR makes the most sense. Moving on from ALTAIR, the next character I've gone with may seem like a surprise, but it's really not if you analyze his character, and that is Jacob FRYE. One half of the FRYE twins, Jacob compared to his sister EVIE is a lot more physical strength focused, and his portrayal is quite literally to be the quote-unquote silly brute force character. Both FRYE siblings very easily cut through Blighters and Templars, but if we go back to the ending of Assassin's Creed Syndicate, we did see them struggle to defeat Crawford Starrick in a 2v1. Now granted, Starrick did have a Shroud of Eden, but you would expect two top tier assassins of their own game to do a little better. I mean, without Henry Green, they wouldn't have been able to beat him. So if anything, Henry Green seems more physically capable than the FRYE twins. But anyway, this part is not about Henry or Evie, it's about just Jacob. Now, whether he's brawling in a pub, taking on rival gangs, or taking part in fight clubs, Jacob's raw power is evident. His fighting style is more aggressive and less refined than some of his predecessors, but it is incredibly effective, to be fair. He wields weapons like brass knuckles and a cane sword with ease, and the way Syndicate's marketing showed him was to be that strength focused character, and that's exactly how I feel when I play as him. Also, I don't really like to feature height in this ranking, as height doesn't mean anything, but I do find it funny that Jacob is around 5'6", the same as Evie, so yeah, he's for sure a short assassin. Okay, now moving on from Jacob, I've now gone with Edward Kenway to be next up as the strongest Assassin's Creed protagonist. Now, Edward is no stranger to physical challenges, having spent years climbing ship riggings, engaging in brutal hand-to-hand combat thanks to his experience in numerous tavern brawls where he could easily take down multiple opponents at once and also swing a cutlass with ease. Now, to be fair, his sword skills were pretty average, but after training with Edward Thatch and Benjamin Hornigold, he became a master swordsman. He even learned to dual wield swords, which if you think about it, that's not exactly an easy thing to do. But when it comes to physical strength, he does have it for sure. But would you say it's his main attribute? I'd go with no. You see, all that time climbing the rigging and masts of ships turned him into a skilled freerunner. He could pretty much navigate cityscapes and natural elements like trees with ease. So instead of pure physical strength, I'd say he's in a similar boat to Arno and Basim, no pun intended. But unlike those two, he in fact does have more evidence that he's physically stronger than both of them. He can single-handedly take down an entire fleet of ships, at least when it comes to boarding them and dealing with the crew. I'm not saying he can man all the cannons by himself, but if you send Edward Kenway to clear out pirates on a ship, he'll come back barely touched. So yeah, where he is in the video seems about right. Oh boy. Now next up we have EZIO Auditore, everyone's favourite protagonist and even my favourite. Now unlike some of the more brute force focused assassins, EZIO's physical prowess comes from his well-rounded abilities and overall training. The great thing about a fan favourite character like EZIO is we get treated to 3 games featuring him, so this meant we pretty much saw his entire journey from a young nobleman to a master assassin, as well as his overall physical transformation. He is relatively strong and muscular, but his strength is complemented by his exceptional agility, climbing the buildings of Florence, Venice and Rome with ease, so his freerunning skills are second to none. Now one interesting thing I have to point out is this scene. Just take a look for yourself and tell me what you see.
I know how to fix it, but lack the means to do so. If you could just lift the wagon.
What is this thing?
Eh?
It looks like a giant bat.
So if you figured it out, we can see EZIO lifting up a wagon with his bare hands. Now if I was to take a guess, I'd say this wagon is around 500 kilograms, considering the flying machine is in the back. So the fact that EZIO could lift it for a short while with ease makes me wonder how strong he really is. But to be fair, this is just a game, and it's all exaggerated, but I thought it was pretty interesting to show you. Anyway, EZIO is more of a strategic assassin instead of pure strength. He's the type to plan what he'll do rather than just to go guns blazing. Thanks to his exceptional training and leadership, the assassins reach what could be considered their peak of global influence. So yeah, he's definitely no slouch, and I'd say the middle of this ranking is perfect for where he is. Now moving on from EZIO, we now have the only Templar in this entire video. Now from this point on, if I sound different, it's because I recorded this half of the video a completely different day, and it's in fact the morning, so my voice will sound more raspier. Now moving on from EZIO, we now have the only Templar in this entire video. I would have also featured Haytham, but since he's not the main protagonist like every other character in this video, that doesn't seem right. Now Shay is a pretty interesting character to talk about in terms of physical strength, because the way his physical strength is showcased is more so how he recovered from a near-death experience and how he toughened up after. Now Shay standing tall and powerfully built shows he's really a tank, and we can see this in his combat. We also should note that his transition from an assassin to a Templar brought a different kind of training and fighting style, adding to his already pretty beefy skill set. The way I personally see Shay is I think he mixes kind of sheer brute force with Basim's impressive gadget collection, and he adds Haytham's savagery edge into the mix. He's a combination of a lot of characters all built into this pretty formidable looking Templar. Oh, and he makes his own luck. That's the most strength a person could ever have. Now going back to the earlier point I made in terms of how his strength is more built up on near-death experience. Now sure, when he fell from the Homestead cliff, that's 100% plot armor, but is it just me that thinks only a character like Shay could survive such a fall? I mean, I wouldn't expect somebody like Arno or Basim to. Well, I guess Kassandra did as a child, but that's for later in the video. But regardless, Shay to me is a pretty tanky character, and if it was not for these next 4, he'd be a top contender for sure. We're now entering the top 5, and all of these characters from this point on would absolutely obliterate everybody I've already talked about, except for Shay. He can definitely hold his own for sure. But in 5th place I went with BAYEK of SIWA. Now BAYEK, being the last Magi of Egypt, automatically gives his name weight in terms of physical power, as to be a Magi you would definitely need to be capable of handling any enemy tossed at you. In the base game of Origins, BAYEK is depicted as a remarkably powerful and versatile character. His physical prowess is highlighted through numerous feats that showcase his extraordinary strength, speed and durability. BAYEK is able to easily dispatch tough animals such as elephants, hippos, lions and crocodiles, and that alone is just a testament to his combat skills and physical strength. When it comes to weapons in Origins, BAYEK is proficient with them all, just by looking at his combat animations and even the way he presents himself in fights. It really does show you he's more than capable. He has survived encounters with pretty beefy looking soldiers and withstood attacks from various predator animals, which just speaks to his durability. His physical strength is further emphasized by his capability to break through strong walls, and even stone walls with cracks and holes, often in locations such as the pyramids and many tombs scattered around Egypt. We also see BAYEK take down literal gods on top of everything else that comes his way, so if anything, BAYEK really has no weakness in terms of physical strength. Maybe he's lacking in height, but to BAYEK that's nothing. Okay, now we're moving into the top 4, and this is where to me it's the most difficult to rank, because I kind of see all 4 of these characters equal in terms of physical power. But at 4th place I've chosen ADEWALE from Freedom Cry. Now this particular character is a very interesting one to rank in this video, because I feel like out of everyone I've already mentioned, ADEWALE is the one we have seen the least of, but it's evident that he's a physically capable character. As a former slave turned pirate and assassin, ADEWALE's strong physique and combat skills are key aspects of his character. A noteworthy thing to acknowledge is that he was born into slavery in Trinidad and developed his strength through years of arduous labour. His escape from slavery and life as a pirate honed his physical abilities even further, and when he joined the West Indies Brotherhood and was mentored by a legendary figure such as Atabai, he trained in so many things such as stealth, combat, swordsmanship, free running, pickpocketing and many more. As the official Assassin's Creed wiki states, ADEWALE is able to take down multiple opponents all at once with little to no effort. The only unfortunate thing about ADEWALE's character is the lack of showing. In Black Flag he's a side character and a quartermaster for the Jackdaw, and Freedom Cry is a very short game, so we don't really get to see much. Oh, and there is Assassin's Creed Rogue, but we don't talk about that. So ADEWALE for sure is a physically strong character. The only thing holding him back from being number 1 is lack of showing, and that's not the character's fault, but instead Ubisoft. We're now in the top 3. Now coming in at 3rd place is a pretty self-explanatory character, and that character is EIVOR from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now for the sake of this video, I'm going to refer to the male EIVOR, even though the female is canon. It just feels more right to talk about. Now EIVOR, being a literal Viking, automatically gives him points in terms of physical strength, because a Viking is often portrayed as stereotypically very strong, and Assassin's Creed Valhalla's depiction of EIVOR is definitely that. Just by EIVOR's 20s, he was more than capable of wielding every possible weapon, such as swords, spears, axes, hammers, you name it. Oh, and speaking of axes and hammers, the size of those weapons are massive, and the fact that EIVOR can easily wield them with just one hand shows how physically capable he really is. Also, his ability to lift and toss literal objects, including his own enemies, further emphasizes how strong he really is. Now, one thing we can mention is the legendary creatures that EIVOR can dispatch. Whether it's the Black Shuck boss fight, the corpse feeders, or the mythical beasts that roam the lands, EIVOR can dispatch them with ease. Also, let's not forget EIVOR does have parkour capabilities. It's not the best, but don't get me wrong, but for a character whose portrayal is to be focused on physical strength, he certainly can climb everything and parkour across rooftops, albeit a very slow and inefficient way. So yeah, 3rd place is for sure EIVOR from Valhalla. Okay, now for the 2nd spot, I've gone with Kassandra / Alexios. They are both technically the same character, so I'll just refer to Kassandra in this instance. It's a similar situation to EIVOR, I guess. Now, Kassandra's physical strength is off the charts. She's built like a top tier athlete, which makes sense considering her Spartan background. Of course, having a grandfather such as King Leonidas I of Sparta will for sure give you an edge in power physically, as you would need to be training quite vigorously. She can handle heavy weapons like large swords, spears and axes without breaking a sweat. Her signature move, which is a Spartan kick, is the main showing here, as she can send enemies flying with just one powerful kick. But the issue with that is that it's the spear giving her the boosted power to do that. But let's say she did not have the spear. Would she still be able to do that kick? Maybe not, but I can still see Kassandra getting some distance with a Spartan kick. But forget about the spear. Kassandra mentioned to Layla that it lost all of its power ages ago, and she ended up giving it to Barnabas as a memento. There is also the Staff of Hermes, but if you take away the actual staff, we're left with thousands of years of experience for Kassandra. While characters like Connor and others were only around for a few years, Kassandra had thousands of years to gain physical, mental, and other types of experience, making her a great candidate for the most physical strength. She even managed to take on mythical creatures such as Minotaurs, Medusa, and even Sphinxes. If I'm being honest, ranking Kassandra in this video is very hard to do, because we don't know everything or everything that was not boosted by the power of the spear in the game, so we're just guessing what her physical strength truly is without it. And if I was to guess, I'd say she's still very powerful and for sure top 3. Now this is the character that I know will get the most attention. I see most people say Connor is the physically strongest character in Assassin's Creed, and I agree. It is debatable to place any of the top 3 I've already mentioned first, but you see, I have to be fair and feature every aspect. So with that said, Connor is first place. Now straight off the bat, Connor is very tall. In fact, I think he's 6'4", as well as being built like a tank. He's arguably the most well-refined character in the entire franchise. Connor's combat style is brutal and raw, relying heavily on his sheer strength. He can lift and throw literal full-grown men with ease, a feat that's highlighted in his double counter-kill animations, where he often holds 2 enemies on a weapon, like a musket, and throws them down with tremendous force. I don't know about you, but getting ragdolled by Connor is not what you'd want. Well, unless you have a fetish for that, I guess. I won't judge. There's even his kill animations, which are ridiculous. One notable move involves him picking up an enemy, flipping them over, and smashing their head into the ground, which is a clear demonstration of his brute force. Just these kill animations alone easily set him apart from other characters by far. His lifestyle and upbringing in a Native American tribe definitely contributed to his physical strength. His main activities included hunting, climbing trees and cliffs, and facing off against large animals like bears and wolves. These activities naturally honed his strength and endurance long before he began his formal assassin training. Even as a young teenager, Connor could overpower fully grown trained men. By the age of 13, he was already capable of taking on multiple mercenaries at the same time and coming out on top. So yeah, his upbringing, his training, and his natural abilities combined to make him the most physically impressive character in Assassin's Creed. And unless Ubisoft released an Assassin's Creed game where the main protagonist is Thanos, I don't really see anybody beating him. Maybe Yasuke, who knows? So there we have it. That is my personal ranking of who I believe the strongest Assassin's Creed protagonist is in terms of physical strength. As I mentioned in the intro, this is all opinion based, and your top 3 may be shuffled around, which is fine. Let me know down in the comments your top 3. Also, let me know what type of video I should make next, and I'll feature your comment in that video. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and with that said, I'll see you in the next one.